Take a deep breath, let it fill your lungs, then let it go. Already you are here. Already you are alive. This book is not a manual of quick fixes or promises of eternal happiness. It is an invitation to slow down, to listen more deeply, and to rediscover the medicine that has been within you all along. In these pages, drawn from the wisdom of Zen and Buddhist teachings, you will find guidance for meeting life's challenges with presence and compassion. You will learn to listen to your body as a wise friend, to welcome your emotions as guests, to discover peace in the present moment, to embrace the grace of aging, and to uncover the purpose that fuels healing. Each chapter is not a lecture, but a lantern lighting the path toward wholeness. Wherever you are in your journey, whether burdened by pain, weary from loss, or simply seeking peace, know this: you are not alone. Countless others have walked this path before you. Now, it is your turn. May these words accompany you like a gentle hand on your shoulder, reminding you that healing is not far away. It is here, in this moment, in your breath, in your very being. Let us begin. Zen Healing Master Formula. Listening to the body's whispers. Sometimes healing does not begin with medicine or even with words. Sometimes it begins with a sigh you didn't know you were holding, a knot in your stomach that refuses to untangle, or a weight in your chest that feels heavier than any burden you can name. These small discomforts are not accidents. They are not meaningless glitches in the system of the body. They are whispers, quiet attempts by your body to reach you before it has to shout. The trouble is that most of us have never been taught how to listen. From the time we are children, we are often told to brush aside our aches and pains. We hear phrases like, "Shake it off," "Don't cry," or "Be strong." These words, though meant to encourage resilience, sometimes train us to distrust or ignore the signals our bodies send. We grow into adults who take painkillers to silence headaches without asking why they came, who push through fatigue with caffeine instead of resting, who bury sadness with endless distraction. The body, loyal and patient, continues to send signals, hoping we will eventually pay attention. The whispers become louder: muscle tension, stomach issues, restless nights. If still unheard, the body may shout through illness or breakdown. Yet even then, the body is not betraying us. It is pleading with us to listen. Buddhist wisdom teaches that the body is not separate from the mind, nor is it a mere machine that breaks down with time. It is an inseparable partner on the path of awareness. In Zen, the body is sometimes called the field of awakening. This means that every sensation, even discomfort, can be a gateway into greater presence. When you feel tightness in your throat after holding back words, that is your body asking for honesty. When your shoulders ache after weeks of carrying responsibilities alone, that is your body asking for support. When your chest tightens in anxiety, that is your body reminding you to breathe. Instead of seeing these sensations as problems to fix, what if we approach them as messages to hear? Consider the story of a woman who carried heaviness in her chest for nearly 4 years. Doctors found nothing wrong. Tests came back clear. She tried new diets, supplements, and even yoga, but the weight remained. One evening, she decided to stop trying to fix it and simply sat with the sensation. She closed her eyes, placed her hand on her chest, and asked, "What are you trying to tell me?" To her surprise, tears came almost immediately. Memories of her father's death surfaced. Grief she had never allowed herself to feel fully. As she wept, the pressure softened. It didn't vanish entirely, but it changed. It was no longer a wall blocking her. It was a doorway she had finally stepped through. Her body had not been broken all those years. It had been faithful, holding her grief until she was ready to feel it. This story illustrates a profound truth. Symptoms are not enemies, they are guides. A headache is not just pain, it might be a reminder that you are overthinking or holding back words. A stomachache may not only be about food, it may reflect the truth you cannot yet digest. Tight shoulders may not simply come from posture, they may reveal burdens carried too long. The body speaks in metaphors. To those who are willing to listen, it speaks with remarkable clarity. Listening to the body requires a shift in how we relate to discomfort. Instead of asking, "How do I get rid of this?" we might ask, "What are you trying to tell me?" This does not mean we ignore medical care. Professional help is often necessary and wise. But, alongside medicine, there is an invitation to bring presence. When we stop fighting symptoms and begin to listen, suffering softens. Pain may remain, but the struggle around it begins to dissolve. The Buddha taught that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Pain is the raw sensation, heat, pressure, tightness. Suffering is the story we add. This will never end. Something is wrong with me. I can't handle this. When we drop the story and return to the raw sensation, something changes. We notice that pain is not a solid block. It is movement, pulsing, tightening, releasing. It is alive. And if it is alive, it will change. This awareness alone can bring relief. The practice of listening to the body does not require hours of meditation or elaborate rituals. It requires only presence. Begin with something simple. Right now, as you read these words, pause. Notice your breath. Feel the rise and fall of your chest. Scan your body gently from head to toe. Where is there tension? Where is there ease? Place a hand on the area that calls to you and breathe into it. You do not have to fix anything. Simply whisper inwardly, "I hear you. I am here." This simple act of acknowledgement can bring more healing than you expect. Another practice is journaling as a conversation with the body. Take a piece of paper and write at the top, "Dear body, what do you want me to know?" Then let your hand move. Don't censor. Don't analyze. Simply write what comes. Many people are surprised by what emerges: apologies, memories, feelings they didn't know they carried. Sometimes the body writes back, "I need rest. I need gentleness. I need you to let go." Even if you doubt, try. The point is not to produce perfect words, but to open the channel of listening. Over time, listening transforms your relationship with yourself. The body stops feeling like an enemy or a puzzle to solve. It becomes a trusted friend, a wise teacher. You begin to marvel at its loyalty. Despite years of neglect or criticism, it has never abandoned you. It has carried you every day, healed cuts and bruises, kept your heart beating and your lungs breathing without you even noticing. To listen is to finally bow in gratitude. As you prepare to close your eyes tonight, take a moment. Place your hand over your heart. Feel its steady rhythm. Whisper, "Thank you. I am here. I am listening." Perhaps nothing will change immediately, or perhaps everything will. Either way, you will have begun a new conversation with your body, the conversation it has been waiting for all along. Healing does not always begin with doing. Often, it begins with listening. And when you learn to listen to the body's whispers, you may discover that the wisdom you have been searching for has been with you all along, patiently waiting beneath your skin, in every breath, in every beat of your heart. The body as a loyal friend. Imagine for a moment that you had a companion who never left your side. This companion carried you when you were weak, stood by you when you were reckless, and kept you alive through every heartbreak and every triumph. Even when you criticized them, neglected them, or pushed them beyond their limits, they never abandoned you. That companion is your body. Though we rarely think of it this way, the body has been the most loyal friend we will ever have. From the instant of our birth, the body has labored on our behalf. The heart beats faithfully, never demanding thanks, pulsing over 2 billion times in the course of a lifetime. The lungs draw breath thousands of times each day, whether we are awake or asleep, anxious or calm. Cuts close, bones knit, fevers burn away infection, all without our conscious command. Our bodies adapt, heal, and adjust continuously, working quietly in the background. We forget this because it is so constant, so reliable. And yet, this loyalty is extraordinary. Sadly, most of us do not treat the body like a friend. Instead, we treat it like a machine to be pushed, or worse, an enemy to be fought. We complain about its appearance, scold it for its weight, berate it for its aches and pains. We often compare it to impossible ideals, forgetting that this body has carried us through every season of our lives. Imagine speaking to an actual friend the way you sometimes speak to yourself. You are not good enough. You are ugly. You are weak. No friend would endure such treatment. And yet, our bodies endure day after day. Buddhist wisdom teaches us to see the body as sacred. It is not something to conquer or mold, but something to honor. In Zen practice, monks bow before meals, not to a deity, but in gratitude to the food that sustains them and to the body that receives it. This bow is a recognition. I see you. I honor you. Thank you. To live this way is to shift from criticism to appreciation, from neglect to reverence. There was once a woman who, after years of battling chronic illness, decided to write a letter to her body. She began with apology. I'm sorry for all the times I ignored you, for every time I silenced your pain with pills, for every insult I threw at you in the mirror. She then wrote words of gratitude. Thank you for healing wounds I never noticed. Thank you for carrying me through sleepless nights. Thank you for keeping me alive despite my neglect. As she wrote, something softened in her. For the first time, she felt that her body was not broken, but faithful. It had been doing its best all along. That letter became the beginning of her healing. Gratitude is transformative. When we pause to thank the body, even in small ways, the relationship begins to heal. Try this. Place your hand on your heart and whisper, "Thank you for beating without my asking." Place your hands on your feet and say, "Thank you for carrying me." Thank your eyes for seeing, your ears for hearing, your stomach for digesting. Each act of gratitude reminds us of the quiet devotion our body offers every day. The practice of befriending the body is not only emotional, it is physical. When you are tired, letting yourself rest is an act of friendship. When you are hungry, feeding yourself nourishing food is an act of care. When you are stiff, stretching or moving gently is a gesture of kindness. These are not indulgences. They are the ways we speak the language of loyalty back to the body. Of course, friendship does not mean perfection. A loyal friend can still falter, and so can the body. Illness, injury, and aging are part of life. But even in these, the body is still doing its best to protect you. A fever is not betrayal, it is defense. Pain is not punishment, it is a request for attention. Aging is not decline, it is transformation. A true friend does not abandon you when things change. They adapt and they remain. So does the body. Try this simple meditation. Sit quietly and imagine your body as a friend sitting across from you. What would you say to them? Would you apologize, thank them, encourage them? Speak these words inwardly, and then imagine what your body might say in return. Perhaps it will ask for more rest. Perhaps it will thank you for finally listening. Perhaps it will simply smile. This practice helps us shift from domination to dialogue, from criticism to companionship. When we begin to see the body as a loyal friend, everything changes. Movement becomes a way of playing together, not punishing calories. Food becomes a gift, not a negotiation. Rest becomes a way of honoring, not a sign of weakness. We start to marvel at how much the body has endured and how much it continues to give. Tonight, before you close your eyes, place your hand over your chest. Whisper, "Thank you for staying with me. Thank you for never leaving." Feel the heart's steady rhythm beneath your palm, the most loyal friend you will ever know. In that moment, you may realize that healing is not about fixing your body, but about reconciling with it. It is about remembering that your body has always been on your side. Your body has never been your enemy. It has been your truest companion, walking with you since your first breath and promising to stay until your last. To treat it as such, to honor it, to thank it, to befriend it is not just medicine, it is love. Pain as messenger, not enemy. Pain is perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of our human experience. From the moment we are children, we are taught to fear it, suppress it, or get rid of it as quickly as possible. We are given painkillers, told to distract ourselves, or encouraged to tough it out. Pain, in our culture, is often seen as an enemy, something that betrays us, something that must be eliminated. Yet Buddhist wisdom offers another perspective. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is your messenger. If you can learn to hear its message, pain can become one of your greatest teachers. The Buddha once said that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. This is not just a clever phrase, it is a profound truth. Pain itself is the raw sensation in the body. Heat, pressure, tightness, throbbing. Suffering is the story we weave around the pain. This will never end. I can't handle this. Something is terribly wrong. The first arrow, as the Buddha described, is the pain. The second arrow is the suffering we create in our minds. We may not be able to avoid the first arrow, but we can learn not to shoot the second one. Consider the story of a man who suffered from chronic migraines for years. He tried countless treatments, medications, diets, therapies. Some helped temporarily, but the pain always returned. One day, at a meditation retreat, he was invited to stop fighting the pain and instead to sit with it. He closed his eyes and asked, "What exactly is this pain?" He noticed throbbing at his temples, a wave-like pulsing heat rising in his head. The more he paid attention, the more he realized that the pain was not a solid wall but a series of changing sensations. Sometimes the throbbing eased, sometimes it sharpened, sometimes it moved. By observing without resistance, he discovered impermanence even within pain. It became less terrifying. The pain did not vanish, but his relationship with it transformed. He no longer felt attacked, he felt taught. Zen practice encourages us to bring presence even into our discomfort. Pain often intensifies when resisted, much like a child who screams louder when ignored. But when you pause, turn toward it, and say inwardly, "I see you, I am listening," the intensity often shifts. Sometimes pain simply wants acknowledgement. Sometimes it is pointing to an area of imbalance in your life. Stress unspoken, boundaries crossed, grief unexpressed. When we ignore these messages, the body shouts louder. When we honor them, the body softens. This does not mean we glorify pain or deny medical care. There is wisdom in seeking treatment, in resting, in caring for the body. But alongside those actions, there is a deeper practice: listening to the messenger. A backache may be asking you to rest. A stomachache may be asking you to release anxiety. A broken heart may be asking you to grieve instead of pretend. Pain, when honored, becomes a map. There was a woman who lived with a dull ache in her shoulders for decades. She blamed poor posture, blamed stress, blamed age. But in meditation, she realized something else. Every time she silenced herself in meetings at work, her shoulders would tense. Every time she felt dismissed, the ache returned. Her body was not punishing her, it was protecting her, bracing against silence. When she began to speak her truth, to take up space in rooms where she once shrank, the pain eased. It was not gone completely, but it no longer ruled her. Her shoulders had delivered their message, and she had finally heard it. The practice of sitting with pain can be simple. The next time discomfort arises, instead of immediately distracting yourself or trying to escape it, pause, close your eyes. Ask, "What is here?" Describe the sensation without judgment. Is it hot, tight, pulsing, sharp? Where does it begin? Where does it end? Notice how it shifts, even subtly. Perhaps it intensifies, perhaps it lessens, perhaps it moves. In this noticing, you will discover that pain is not static, it is alive. And because it is alive, it is impermanent. When you stop labeling pain as an enemy, a new spaciousness appears. You may even discover compassion for it. Instead of, "Why is this happening to me?" you might whisper, "Thank you for showing me where I need to care for myself." This simple shift transforms pain from something you fight to something you befriend. And friendship, even with discomfort, brings peace. Try this tonight. If you feel an ache, instead of immediately reaching for your phone or your medicine cabinet, pause. Place your hand gently on the area. Breathe. Whisper inwardly, "I am here with you. I am listening." Perhaps nothing changes, or perhaps everything does. Pain may remain, but the suffering softens. And in that softening, you may discover that pain was never here to hurt you, it was here to guide you home. Your body does not betray you with pain, it communicates. It reminds you to rest, to feel, to release, to speak, to live authentically. To treat pain as a messenger is to step into a new relationship with yourself. It is to realize that healing is not always about removing what hurts, but about learning from it. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is your teacher. Breath, the bridge between worlds. There is one rhythm that has been with you since the very first moment of your life, and will remain until the very last. The breath. Before you spoke your first word, before you took your first step, your body breathed for you. Long after thoughts quiet in sleep, the breath continues. It is both voluntary and involuntary, conscious and unconscious. You can ignore it for hours, yet in any instant you can return to it, shape it, ride it like a wave. In this way, the breath is not merely a function of biology, it is a bridge. It connects body and mind, matter and spirit, the seen and the unseen. It is the thread that weaves all worlds together. In Buddhist practice, breath is more than survival. It is the anchor of presence. The Buddha himself, in his final journey toward awakening, turned not to lofty theories, but to the simple observation of breath. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. Such simplicity is disarming. We are accustomed to believing that wisdom must be complex, that healing must involve effort. Yet the breath offers itself freely, carrying us back to the present moment, again and again. Notice how the breath shifts with your state of mind. When anxious, the breath becomes shallow and fast, barely touching the chest. When angry, it comes sharp and hot. When calm, it deepens, flowing like a river through the body. This inseparable link between breath and emotion is no accident. The nervous system listens to the breath. When you breathe slowly and deeply, you send a message to the body. It is safe to rest. It is safe to heal. Consider the story of a young man who suffered from debilitating anxiety. His heart raced at work. His chest felt tight on crowded trains. His mind spiraled at night. Therapy helped, but one teaching transformed him most. Each time panic rose, he was to pause and take 3 deliberate breaths. At first he doubted. How could 3 breaths undo years of fear? Yet he tried. In the middle of traffic, before meetings, lying awake in bed, he paused. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. The panic did not vanish, but it loosened its grip. He described it as though a small window opened in a suffocating room. Breath did not cure him in one night, but it gave him a doorway to peace. Zen teachers often remind us that breath is shared. The air you exhale will be inhaled by someone else. The air you breathe now may have once passed through forests, oceans, even the lungs of those long gone. In this way, breath teaches interconnection. We are not separate. We are participants in one great exchange, each inhale a receiving, each exhale a giving. To breathe with awareness is to join the symphony of all life. Try this practice. Close your eyes and place one hand on your belly. Take a slow, deep inhale, feeling your hand rise. Exhale fully, feeling your hand fall. Silently say, inhale, I receive life. Exhale, I release control. Repeat 3 times. Notice what shifts. Perhaps your shoulders soften, your jaw unclenches, your mind quiets slightly. Perhaps nothing obvious changes. That is fine. The breath is patient. It will meet you again and again. There was a woman who practiced this daily, not as an escape, but as a way of living. Washing dishes, she noticed the rhythm of breath and water. Walking to work, she timed her steps with her inhales and exhales. Speaking with her children, She paused to breathe before responding. Over time, she said, life stopped feeling like a race and began to feel like a prayer. Ordinary tasks became sacred because they were woven with breath. Breath is also a teacher of impermanence. No matter how tightly you cling to an inhale, eventually you must release it. No matter how desperately you want to hold on to an exhale, eventually the body will draw in again. Breath teaches letting go more honestly than any words could. When you exhale, you practice trust that life will bring another inhale. When you inhale, you practice gratitude that life has given you this moment. In this way, breath is a bridge not only between body and mind, but between fear and trust, grasping and release, suffering and peace. Each time you choose to return to it, you cross the bridge into presence. You realize you do not need to escape into past or future. You have what you need here, in the quiet miracle of breathing. Tonight, before you sleep, pause. Place your hand on your heart. Feel the rise and fall. Whisper softly, "This breath is enough." Let that truth carry you into rest. For as long as breath remains, the bridge is open. All you need to do is step onto it, inhale, exhale, and return home. The practice of gentle attention. In the rush of daily life, we often overlook the quietest but most powerful form of healing: gentle attention. Unlike discipline or control, gentle attention asks nothing more than to notice without judgment, to sit with what is here, to greet each part of yourself with kindness. It is not dramatic, it is not urgent. Yet this simple practice is one of the deepest medicines available to us. Gentle attention begins with a shift in attitude. Most of us are trained to see the body as a problem to solve, a project to improve, or a machine to fix when broken. We approach ourselves with criticism, comparison, or indifference. But imagine, just for a moment, treating your body as you would a beloved child or a dear friend. You would not demand perfection. You would not scold them for needing rest. You would sit with them, listen, offer comfort. This is the essence of gentle attention. Consider a simple body scan. You sit quietly, close your eyes, and imagine moving your awareness from the crown of your head down to the soles of your feet. At each point, you pause and notice. Is there warmth, tension, tingling, heaviness? You do not rush to change it. You do not label it as good or bad. You simply acknowledge, "I see you, I feel you." This act of noticing alone creates space. The body, when seen with kindness, often begins to relax on its own. A man once shared that he carried years of unspoken grief in his chest. Doctors found nothing physically wrong, but the ache never left. Through gentle attention, he began to place his hand over his heart each evening, breathing softly, saying, "I am here." Over time, the ache shifted. Sometimes it grew stronger, sometimes lighter, but eventually it loosened. He realized that the ache had not been an enemy. It was grief waiting to be witnessed. His healing did not come from force, but from presence. Gentle attention can also transform the way we eat, walk, or speak. Eating with gentle attention means tasting your food fully, noticing textures, honoring the nourishment entering your body. Walking with gentle attention means feeling your feet touch the ground, the rhythm of steps, the support of earth beneath you. Speaking with gentle attention means pausing before words, noticing the tone, choosing kindness. None of these require extra time, only a willingness to bring presence. Zen practice often emphasizes this simplicity. When walking, walk. When eating, eat. On the surface, these words seem almost trivial, yet within them lies profound wisdom. To give your full attention to the act before you is to return to life itself. Gentle attention makes the ordinary sacred. Washing dishes becomes a meditation. Drinking tea becomes a prayer. Folding laundry becomes an act of love. The task does not change, but the way you meet it does. Try this practice tonight. Sit in a quiet space. Choose one part of your body that feels tense or tired. Place your hand there. Breathe. Whisper inwardly, "I am here. Thank you." Do not demand the tension leave. Do not force relaxation. Simply stay. Notice what shifts. Perhaps nothing changes immediately. Perhaps tears rise, or warmth spreads, or the area simply softens slightly. Whatever happens, you have offered the gift of attention. That gift is enough. Another practice is to greet your emotions with gentle attention. Instead of pushing away sadness or anger, you sit with it as you would with a guest. You do not rush them out the door. You say, "Welcome, sit, tell me your story." When emotions are seen without judgment, they transform. Sadness may reveal love. Anger may reveal boundaries. Fear may reveal care for what matters. Gentle attention helps us uncover the wisdom hidden within our feelings. Over time, the practice of gentle attention changes your relationship with yourself. Instead of battling your body and emotions, you begin to collaborate with them. You learn to trust that you do not have to force healing. Healing unfolds naturally when given space. Like a flower opening to sunlight, the body and mind respond to kindness. As you prepare to rest tonight, pause. Place both hands on your chest. Breathe slowly. Whisper, "I am here. I am listening." Feel the rise and fall beneath your palms. In this simple act, you are practicing gentle attention. You are reminding your body that it is not alone, that it is worthy of care. This is not weakness, it is wisdom. Healing is not always about doing more. Often, it is about doing less, about softening, about noticing, about returning again and again with patience. Gentle attention may sound small, but it holds the power to transform your relationship with yourself. And in that transformation lies the beginning of true healing. What you don't feel, you can't heal. There are feelings we bury so deeply that we convince ourselves they no longer exist. The tears we never allowed to fall, the anger we swallowed in silence, the fears we locked away in the dark corners of our hearts. These do not simply vanish, they sink into the body, where they wait. They wait in the tension of your shoulders, in the heaviness of your chest, in the restless churn of your stomach. They wait, patient and loyal, until you are willing to feel them. And here lies one of the most important truths of healing. What you don't feel, you can't heal. In Buddhism, emotions are not seen as enemies. They are movements of energy passing through the field of awareness. Left to flow, they arise, peak, and dissolve, like waves on the ocean. But when resisted, they stagnate. When you tell yourself, "I don't have time to grieve," or "I shouldn't be angry," or "I must not be afraid," the emotion doesn't disappear. It lodges in the body, waiting to be honored. Suppression does not erase feelings, it preserves them, often in painful ways. There was a woman who, after her mother's death, refused to cry. She told herself she had to be strong for her family. Years passed, and she carried a constant tightness in her throat. Doctors found no illness. At a silent retreat, during a meditation session, the tightness finally broke. She wept uncontrollably for hours, the tears of a decade finally finding their release. Afterward, she said softly, "I didn't know how heavy it was until I let it go." The body had carried her grief until she was ready to feel it. Only in feeling could she finally begin to heal. This is the paradox. The emotions we most fear are often the ones most in need of our attention. We think avoiding pain will protect us, but in truth it prolongs it. A wound ignored festers. A wound tended can close. When we deny our sadness, it curdles into depression. When we repress anger, it hardens into resentment. When we silence fear, it morphs into anxiety. What we refuse to feel will always find another way to surface. Zen practice invites us to sit with emotions instead of fleeing from them. This does not mean drowning in them or acting them out blindly. It means allowing them to exist without judgment. When sadness comes, we bow. "Hello, grief, I see you." When anger arises, we listen. What boundary are you protecting? When fear trembles, we acknowledge, "Thank you for trying to keep me safe." Each time we witness an emotion, we loosen its grip. We transform the energy from poison into medicine. A man once shared how he lived with constant fatigue. Doctors found no clear cause. Through meditation, he discovered that every time he thought of his father, who had abandoned him as a child, his body sagged. He realized he had never allowed himself to feel the anger and sorrow of that loss. As he began to let the emotions move, sometimes through tears, sometimes through shaking, sometimes through words, his energy slowly returned. He said, "It's like I've been carrying someone else's weight inside me. Letting it out gave me back my own strength." His healing came not from escape, but from courage to feel. The practice can be simple. The next time you feel a knot in your stomach, a lump in your throat, or a heaviness in your chest, pause. Place a hand on that part of your body. Ask inwardly, "What are you holding for me?" Do not force an answer. Just listen. Maybe an image arises, maybe a memory, maybe nothing but silence. Stay, breathe. Allow the possibility that what feels unbearable is simply waiting for acknowledgement. In time, you may find that what you resisted for years can move through you in minutes when finally allowed. It takes courage to feel. There is risk in opening old wounds, but there is greater risk in never opening them at all. To feel is not to be weak, it is to be human. Tears are not signs of failure, they are evidence of love. Anger is not proof of cruelty, it is the fire that guards what matters. Fear is not shameful, it is a guardian pointing toward what you value. When we feel fully, we come alive fully. As you prepare to rest tonight, take a quiet moment, sit with yourself, ask gently, "What have I not allowed myself to feel?" Place your hand on your heart and whisper, "I am ready." Maybe nothing comes, that is okay. Or maybe a flood arises, that is okay too. Whatever comes, let it move. For healing is not found in avoidance, healing is found in presence, and presence requires feeling. What you don't feel, you can't heal. But what you dare to feel, with compassion and courage, will finally begin to release. And in that release, you will find not only healing, but freedom. The geography of emotion. Every emotion leaves a trace in the body. Grief is carried in the chest, where the lungs expand and contract. Anger simmers in the jaw, in clenched teeth, in a tight throat. Fear curls in the belly. Joy radiates from the face and heart. Though emotions may seem invisible, they always have geography, specific landscapes within the body where they make their home. To understand this geography is to understand yourself more deeply. In many ancient traditions, emotions were mapped onto the body. In Chinese medicine, the liver was said to hold anger, the lungs grief, the kidneys fear, the heart joy. In Buddhism, there is recognition that the mind and body are not separate. What is unfelt in the heart will be carried in the body. Modern science now echoes this truth. Trauma studies show that the body holds memory, that experiences live in tissues and muscles long after the mind has forgotten. This is why a scent, a song, or a posture can suddenly unleash a flood of emotion. The body remembers. Consider how your own body responds in moments of stress. Before your mind even forms words, your chest may tighten, your stomach may churn, your shoulders may rise toward your ears. These are not random reactions. They are the body's language, signaling emotional states. By learning to recognize these signals, you can begin to understand what your emotions are asking of you. There was a woman who noticed that every time she entered a difficult conversation at work, her throat grew tight. She thought at first it was coincidence, but as she practiced mindfulness, she realized the pattern. Whenever she felt unheard, her throat closed, as though silencing her voice. Her body had become the geography of her unspoken words. Once she began to speak up more often, the tightness eased. Her body had been guiding her toward truth. Another man lived for years with constant tension in his lower back. He stretched, exercised, saw doctors, but nothing lasted. Finally, through meditation, he began to ask his back what it was holding. Memories arose of his father's death when, as a teenager, he had stepped into the role of provider for his family. His back had carried that burden ever since, quite literally. As he shared responsibility in his adult life, the pain softened. His back had been his geography of responsibility, reminding him that he did not need to carry everything alone. The geography of emotion is deeply personal. While traditions may offer general maps, your body holds your unique cartography. For some, grief lives in the gut, for others in the throat. For some, fear shows up as sweaty palms, for others as frozen stillness. To know your emotional geography, you must become curious. Sit quietly and ask, when I feel sadness, where does it live in my body? When I feel anger, what part of me tightens? When I feel joy, where does warmth spread? This is an exploration, not an exam. The answers are your own. Try this practice. The next time you feel a strong emotion, pause and close your eyes. Ask, where in my body is this emotion? Place your hand there. Breathe. Say softly, hello, I feel you. Do not rush to change it. Simply notice. Over time, you may find patterns. Anxiety may always flutter in your belly. Anger may always pulse in your jaw. By mapping your inner geography, you create a compass for healing. This practice transforms how we experience discomfort. Instead of thinking, I have a headache, or my back hurts in isolation, we ask, what is this sensation pointing to? What emotion might live here? A headache might signal unspoken frustration. Back pain might reveal a life carried too heavily. A stomachache might reflect a truth not yet digested. Each discomfort is a signpost, guiding us toward understanding. In Zen, awareness of the body is not separate from awareness of the mind. To sit in meditation is to feel the breath rise and fall, to notice the weight of the body on the cushion, to recognize sensations without clinging or resisting. This is not indulgence, it is intimacy with yourself. By knowing the geography of your emotions, you no longer feel lost within them. You can say, "Ah, this is sadness in my chest. This is anger in my jaw. This is joy in my heart." Naming the geography creates space. In that space, healing becomes possible. As you lie in bed tonight, try a gentle scan of your body. Ask, what part of me feels heavy? What part feels light? Where do I feel held? Where do I feel tight? Place your hand on one of those places and whisper, "Thank you for showing me." In that moment, you honor your body not as a battleground, but as a map that leads you back to yourself. Your body has always been your guide. It remembers what the mind forgets. To honor its geography is to honor your truth. And when you learn to navigate that inner landscape with compassion, you may find that every ache, every flutter, every breath is pointing you home. Suppression as stagnation, expression as liberation. Still, water that does not move becomes stagnant. In the same way, emotions that are never allowed to move become heavy, stale, and toxic. We are often taught that to suppress our emotions is to control them, to appear strong, to keep the peace. But suppression is not strength. Suppression is stagnation, and stagnation eventually breeds suffering. The opposite of suppression is not chaos or indulgence, but healthy expression, allowing emotions to move through the body and out into the world in ways that free us rather than imprison us. Expression is liberation. From childhood, many of us were told to swallow our feelings. Don't cry, be brave. Don't be angry, it's impolite. Don't be scared, just get over it. These words, though often well-meaning, trained us to distrust the natural flow of our emotions. We learned to silence tears, clench our jaws, and harden our bodies against feeling. The result is that unexpressed emotions linger. They remain in our muscles, in our breath, in our nervous systems. They wait for acknowledgement. And when acknowledgement never comes, they transform into chronic tension, anxiety, depression, or even illness. What we do not express, we continue to carry. Consider the story of a woman who suffered from digestive issues for years. She tried every diet, every treatment, but nothing lasted. In meditation, she discovered that her stomach tightened every time she suppressed her anger in her marriage. She realized that she had been swallowing her truth for decades, and her body had borne the cost. When she finally began to express herself, not with violence or blame, but with clarity and honesty, her symptoms began to ease. Her healing began not with food, but with expression. Her body did not need another diet, it needed her voice. Expression does not mean acting out every feeling without discernment. To scream at others or lash out in rage is not liberation, it is reaction. True expression is mindful. It acknowledges the feeling, gives it a safe outlet, and allows it to move. Tears are a form of expression. Journaling is expression. Speaking your truth calmly is expression. Dancing, painting, praying, breathing deeply, these are all forms of expression. They take what is inside and give it movement. Once an emotion moves, it transforms, it loosens its hold. It teaches you what it came to teach, and then it passes. A man once carried deep resentment after losing his job unfairly. For years he pretended he was fine, but his body grew heavy and tired. When he finally began writing letters, he never sent pouring out his anger and sadness on paper. He felt lighter. He described it as unclogging a drain. The emotions that had been stagnant began to flow, and with that flow came energy, clarity, and even forgiveness. Expression did not erase the injustice, but it freed him from being defined by it. Zen practice teaches the middle way, not clinging and not suppressing. To feel an emotion fully is not to drown in it, but to let it pass through. To express an emotion mindfully is to honor its energy without being consumed by it. Anger expressed with mindfulness becomes clarity about boundaries. Grief expressed with compassion becomes connection. Fear expressed with awareness becomes wisdom about what you value. Expression is transformation. Try this practice. The next time you feel a strong emotion rising, instead of pushing it down, pause, find a safe space, place your hand on your heart and breathe. Then ask, how can I express this in a way that honors me and does not harm others? Maybe it means crying. Maybe it means writing. Maybe it means speaking honestly to someone you trust. Maybe it means moving your body, walking, running, dancing until the energy shifts. Notice how the body responds after expression. Often there is a sense of lightness, as though a burden has been lifted. Suppression, on the other hand, creates weight. Each time you silence yourself, the body adds another stone to the load. Each time you say, "I'm fine," when you are not, the body tenses to hold the lie. Over years, this weight can feel unbearable, but expression removes stones, one by one. Over time, the load lightens. You realize you were never meant to carry so much alone. There is a Zen saying, "Let it flow." Water teaches us this. A river that flows stays fresh. A river that is dammed without release floods its banks or dries in stagnation. Emotions are rivers. They are meant to move. Your tears are rivers. Your laughter is a river. Even your anger is a river, seeking a course to carve truth into the world. Do not dam them, guide them, let them flow. As you reflect tonight, ask yourself, what emotion have I been holding back? What have I not allowed to move? Then, give it an outlet, however small. Whisper it, write it, cry it, move it, let it out into the open air. For suppression breeds stagnation, but expression opens the door to freedom, and in that freedom lies healing. Writing a letter to the body. There are conversations we never think to have, and one of the most important is with our own body. We speak about our bodies, often we complain about their shape, judge their appearance, or lament their aches, but we rarely speak to them. We rarely pause to acknowledge that beneath skin and bone is a living being that has carried us every day of our lives. One of the most transformative practices you can try is writing a letter to your body. This is not just an exercise in imagination, it is an act of reconciliation, a bridge between neglect and care, criticism and gratitude, disconnection and intimacy. Begin by imagining your body as a loyal companion. For decades, it has worked tirelessly. Your heart has beaten through heartbreak and joy. Your lungs have breathed through fear and laughter. Your feet have carried you into love and into loss. Yet how often have you taken the time to thank it? How often have you offered kindness instead of complaint? A letter creates space for honesty, apology, and recognition. Consider this example. A woman who had struggled for years with autoimmune illness sat down to write to her body. At first, she felt foolish, but she let the words come. "Dear body, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all the times I called you broken. I'm sorry for pushing you past exhaustion. I'm sorry for resenting you when you were only trying to protect me. Thank you for carrying me through so much. Thank you for continuing to breathe and heal, even when I forgot to love you." As she wrote, tears came. For the first time, she saw her body not as an enemy, but as a partner. That letter became the start of her healing journey. Her illness did not vanish overnight, but her relationship with herself softened, and that shift was profound. Writing a letter to your body allows hidden truths to surface. Often, what pours onto the page are apologies, gratitudes, and even questions. You may find yourself saying, "I forgive you, do you forgive me?" or "What do you need from me now?" In that dialogue, something sacred happens. The body's voice emerges. Some people even allow their body to write back. After finishing your letter, take a new page and begin with, "Dear me." Then, without overthinking, let the words flow as though your body is speaking. You may be surprised. "I am not angry with you. I just want you to rest more. I want you to remember that you are worthy of care. I love you." Whether these words come from imagination or intuition hardly matters. What matters is the intimacy they create. This practice is not about performance. It is not about writing something poetic or clever. It is about honesty. If what you feel is anger, write it. If what you feel is shame, put it down. If what you feel is gratitude, let it flow. Your body does not need perfect words, it needs acknowledgement. And when acknowledged, it often sighs with relief, as though finally being heard after years of silence. Try this. Tonight, set aside 10 minutes. Take pen and paper. Begin with, "Dear body." Let your hand move without censoring. When you finish, place your hand on your chest and read the letter aloud softly. Notice what happens. Do you feel warmth, tears, resistance? Stay with it. Then, if you feel ready, allow your body to respond. Write back, even if the words feel awkward. This is a dialogue, not a monologue. It is a way of weaving yourself back together. There was a man who carried shame about his appearance since childhood. In his letter, he wrote, "I'm sorry for calling you ugly. I see now you were never the problem I was. You were always strong, always faithful." In the body's imagined reply, he heard, "I have always loved you, even when you hated me." That exchange, simple as it was, shifted decades of self-loathing. It taught him that healing is not about erasing scars, but about changing the story we tell ourselves. Zen practice reminds us that intimacy with life begins with intimacy with ourselves. To write to the body is to acknowledge its sacredness, to bow to it as the field of awakening it has always been. Healing is not only about medicine or effort, it is also about relationship. When the relationship between you and your body softens, the path of healing opens. As you prepare to sleep tonight, Imagine placing your letter beside you like a trusted companion. Whisper, "Thank you, I am listening now." Your body may not speak in words, but it will respond in softer breath, in eased tension, in the quiet joy of being acknowledged. In that moment, you will realize that your body has never been against you. It has always been waiting for this conversation, waiting for you to write the first word. The guest house of the heart. Every morning, a new guest arrives at the door of your heart. Sometimes it is joy, bearing gifts of laughter. Sometimes it is sorrow, carrying the weight of loss. Sometimes it is anger, fierce and fiery. Sometimes it is fear, trembling but protective. Most of us try to bar the door against the guests we dislike. We chase them away, pretend they are not knocking, or slam the door in their faces. Yet the wisdom of Zen and the poetry of Rumi remind us, this being human is a guest house, and every feeling is a visitor. To live fully is to welcome them all. We often think of emotions as permanent intruders, but in truth, they are travelers passing through. Grief may stay for a season, but even grief shifts with time. Anger may burn hot, but eventually it cools. Fear may seize the body, but eventually it softens. No guest remains forever. The practice is not to cling to joy when it arrives, or to resist sorrow when it comes. The practice is to open the door and say, "Welcome, I see you, come in." In doing so, we transform our relationship with ourselves. Consider a woman who lived for years with anxiety. She treated it as an invader, something to be fought or suppressed. The harder she resisted, the louder it grew, like a guest banging on the windows after being locked out. At a retreat, she was invited to treat her anxiety as a guest instead of an enemy. She began each morning by whispering, "Welcome, anxiety, sit with me." At first, the practice felt absurd, but slowly, the grip of fear loosened. By welcoming the guest, she discovered that anxiety was not here to destroy her, but to remind her to slow down, to rest, to live with more gentleness. Another story tells of a man consumed by grief after losing his wife. For months, he tried to numb it with work, alcohol, distractions. Nothing eased the ache. Finally, he allowed grief to enter fully. He sat each evening with his pain, breathing and saying, "You are welcome here." In that permission, grief shifted. It still hurt, but it became a companion rather than a tormentor. In time, grief even revealed its gift, the depth of his love. He realized that the presence of sorrow was proof of the beauty he had shared. The guest was not a curse, but a reminder of love's enduring truth. When we treat our emotions as guests, we learn hospitality of the heart. We offer a chair to joy, but also to sorrow. We make space for anger, not to indulge it, but to hear its message about boundaries. We invite fear to sit, not to dominate us, but to understand what it is trying to protect. Each guest comes bearing insight. Each leaves us changed. To slam the door is to miss the message. To open the door is to grow. Try this practice. The next time a difficult emotion arises, pause. Close your eyes and imagine your heart as a house with a door. Picture the emotion standing there. What does it look like? What does it carry? Now imagine opening the door. Say inwardly, "Welcome, you are allowed here." Invite the emotion to sit with you for a moment. Breathe together. Notice what shifts. Often, emotions soften when they are seen. They do not need to take over the house. they only need acknowledgement. Zen practice teaches us that equanimity, the ability to stay balanced amid changing emotions, does not come from controlling the guests, but from welcoming them. Life will always bring arrivals: joy, sorrow, anger, peace. To resist them is to live in constant struggle. To welcome them is to discover spaciousness. You begin to realize that your heart is large enough to host them all. You are not the guest, you are the house, and the house remains, no matter who enters or leaves. As you prepare to rest tonight, take a quiet moment. Place your hand on your chest. Whisper, "Welcome," whatever guest arrives. Trust that no matter who comes, knocking, whether joy, grief, or fear, you have the capacity to host them. You are not at the mercy of your visitors. You are the keeper of the guest house, the one who can bow to each arrival and learn from them before letting them go. With this, Chapter 2 closes. We have seen that what we refuse to feel, we cannot heal, that emotions have geography in the body, that suppression creates stagnation, while expression creates freedom, that writing to the body opens dialogue, and that every feeling is a guest in the house of the heart. To live with this awareness is to transform life itself into a practice of hospitality, where even pain becomes a teacher, and every guest leaves behind a gift. The now is enough. We live much of our lives chasing after a moment that has not yet arrived or clinging to one that has already passed. The mind races into the future, rehearsing fears and fantasies. What if I fail? What if I succeed? What if I am rejected? What if I am loved? At the same time, it circles endlessly around the past, replaying regrets. If only I had said this. If only I had chosen differently. If only things had turned out another way. This constant movement leaves us exhausted because we are never here. We forget that the only place we can ever truly live is the present moment. The now is not only all we have, it is enough. The Buddha's great discovery beneath the Bodhi tree was not a theory about the universe, but an awakening into this moment. Breathing in, he knew he was breathing in. Breathing out, he knew he was breathing out. Enlightenment was not found in some distant heaven, but in the very breath, in the now. Zen has carried this truth through centuries. Presence is the path, and the path is here. Yet many resist this simplicity. The mind insists that peace must be complicated, that healing must lie in the next book, the next achievement, the next tomorrow. We wait for conditions to be perfect before we allow ourselves to rest. When I finish this project, I'll relax. When I reach this age, I'll be happy. When I meet this person, I'll feel complete. But tomorrow never arrives as we imagine, and so life becomes a series of postponements, peace always out of reach. Consider a man who suffered with chronic back pain. He spent years chasing treatments, therapies, and cures. Nothing offered lasting relief. One day, in despair, he simply sat by a window and watched the rain. He noticed the sound against the glass, the cool air on his skin, the rise and fall of his breath. The pain was still there, but something changed. His suffering eased. For the first time, he realized that peace was not dependent on erasing discomfort. Peace was available even here, in the midst of pain, in the presence of now. This realization did not cure him, but it gave him back his life. Zen teachers often compare the mind to a snow globe. Shake it, and the flakes whirl chaotically, obscuring the scene inside. This is how life feels when we are lost in past and future. But set the globe down, and the flakes settle. The scene reveals itself with clarity. In the same way, when we rest in the present, the turbulence quiets, and life is revealed. The world was never absent. It was simply hidden beneath the storm of thought. Try this. Pause for a moment and notice your breath. Inhale, exhale. Say silently, "This is enough." Look around. Notice the colors, the sounds, the sensations of this moment. You may be surprised to find that right here, nothing is missing. The body is breathing. The earth is holding you. The present is complete. There was a woman who practiced this daily. She began by repeating a mantra each morning. "Now is enough." She whispered it while brushing her teeth, while walking to work, while waiting in line. Slowly, her anxiety about the future loosened. She found herself tasting her food more fully, listening more deeply to her children, laughing more often. She said, "I used to live as though life was just ahead of me. Now I live as though life is here." The shift was subtle, but transformative. She discovered joy was not hiding. It had always been present, waiting for her attention. The now is not always blissful. Sometimes the now contains sorrow, loss, or uncertainty. But even then, it is enough. When you allow yourself to fully feel grief, it moves. When you acknowledge fear, it softens. When you sit with discomfort, it becomes bearable. Avoidance multiplies pain. Presence dissolves it. To say, "Now is enough," is not to deny hardship, but to trust that even in difficulty, life is still whole. Zen reminds us that impermanence is the nature of all things. This moment will pass, the next will come, but each moment is complete in itself. The practice is to enter fully, not to wait for a better one. When you live this way, ordinary life becomes sacred, eating becomes communion, walking becomes meditation, resting becomes prayer. Nothing is wasted, because everything is met. Tonight, before sleep, sit quietly. Place your hand on your heart. Breathe deeply. Whisper, "This moment is enough." Let the truth of those words settle into your bones. You may find that peace is not far away, not in tomorrow or yesterday, but here, in the simple rhythm of breath. And once you realize that the now is enough, you begin to live not in memory, not in anticipation, but in the only place you have ever truly been, here. Breaking free from mental time travel. The mind is a restless traveler. It darts into the past, replaying conversations and mistakes, clinging to regrets or nostalgia. It leaps into the future, spinning stories of fear, hope, and endless what-ifs. Rarely does it pause to rest in the present, where life is actually happening. This habit of mental time travel is one of the greatest sources of human suffering. It steals our peace, drains our energy, and blinds us to the richness of now. Breaking free from it does not mean forgetting the past or ignoring the future. It means learning to return, again and again, to the present moment. Think about how often you lose yourself in memory. A mistake at work replays in your mind late into the night. A lost relationship lives on in endless what-ifs. A moment of shame or regret becomes a ghost, haunting you for years. The past cannot be changed, yet we rehearse it as though repetition might alter its course. Memory has its value. It teaches, it reminds, it roots us in identity, but when we live there, it becomes a prison. The door to freedom is here, not back there. And then there is the future, the endless horizon of possibility that the anxious mind turns into catastrophe. What if I fail? What if they leave? What if this pain never ends? These questions pull us out of the present and into imagined disasters. Anxiety thrives in this space, feeding on uncertainty. The future will come, but it will never arrive in the shape we predict. When we invest all our energy into trying to control it, we lose the only moment in which we have any power, the present. Zen practice offers us a way to unhook from this time travel. The body is always present. The breath is always present. If you anchor yourself to either, the mind's journeys begin to soften. Consider the image of a snow globe. When shaken, the flakes swirl chaotically, obscuring everything. This is the mind when lost in past and future. But when the globe is set down, the flakes settle. The scene inside becomes clear. Rest in presence, and clarity returns. Life was always here, waiting beneath the storm. There was a woman who described her anxiety as a constant alarm bell ringing in her head. It blared warnings of dangers that never came. Through mindfulness training, she learned to pause and focus on her breath. One inhale, one exhale. At first, the alarm grew louder, as though protesting her refusal to listen. But over time, the sound softened. She realized that the alarm was not predicting real danger, it was her mind rehearsing fear. By anchoring in the present, she learned to distinguish between imagination and reality. Breaking free from mental time travel does not mean erasing the past or ignoring the future. It means relating to them differently. You honor the past as memory, but you don't let it chain you. You acknowledge the future as possibility, but you don't let it consume you. You return, again and again, to the only reality you can touch. This breath, this step, this moment. Try this. The next time you find yourself caught in a spiral of regret or worry, pause. Place your hand on your belly. Take one slow, deep breath. Say silently, I am here. Feel the rise and fall beneath your hand. Look around. Name 3 things you see, 3 things you hear, 3 things you feel. This simple act pulls you out of time travel and back into presence. Each time you return, you strengthen the muscle of awareness. A man once described this practice as coming home. He had spent decades chasing future success, believing happiness was always one step ahead. When he began practicing presence, he discovered moments of joy in the simplest things: his morning coffee, the sound of rain, the warmth of his dog beside him. He said, I realized I had been running toward happiness my whole life, but it was waiting for me here. The mind will always wander, that is its nature. But freedom comes from no longer being kidnapped by every thought. You learn to watch the mind wander and gently call it back. Each return is a victory. Each return is freedom. Over time, you discover that the past no longer binds you and the future no longer terrifies you. You stand, finally, in the vast open field of now. Tonight, before you close your eyes, notice where your mind wants to go. If it drifts to yesterday, whisper, that is memory. If it leaps to tomorrow, whisper, that is imagination. Then place your hand on your heart and breathe. This is real. This is now. Let yourself rest there, for when you break free from mental time travel, you arrive at the only destination that has ever truly mattered here. Ordinary acts as sacred practice. Most of us believe the sacred must be found in temples, cathedrals, or mountaintops. We think holiness is reserved for rare moments of silence or ritual. Yet Zen wisdom reminds us that the sacred is woven into every corner of daily life, waiting not in grand gestures but in ordinary acts. To treat ordinary acts as sacred practice is to transform life itself into meditation. It is to discover that the divine hides in the smallest of gestures, washing dishes, walking down the street, sipping a cup of tea. In Zen monasteries, this teaching is not abstract. Monks practice same or mindful work, where sweeping floors, cooking meals, or tending gardens are given the same attention as formal meditation. The lesson is simple but profound. Enlightenment is not something separate from the mundane. It is found in how you move your hands as you wash a plate, how you breathe as you fold laundry, how you listen as someone speaks. Ordinary acts become sacred when infused with presence. Consider the story of a man who dreaded his daily chores. Dishes piled up in his sink, and each time he washed them, he rushed, grumbling, eager to finish and get on with real life. But one day, he encountered a Zen teaching that invited him to wash the dishes simply for the sake of washing. He slowed down. He felt the warm water on his skin, noticed the slippery texture of the soap, watched the bubbles form and disappear. Suddenly, the act shifted. He was no longer waiting to live after the task. He was living in the task itself. Washing dishes became not a burden but a meditation. He said later, "I realized I had been missing life in my hurry to finish it." This is the essence of sacred practice in ordinary acts. It does not require chanting or incense. It requires attention. When you bring your full awareness to what you are doing, no matter how simple, you dignify the act. Eating becomes communion with the earth. Walking becomes prayer. Brushing your teeth becomes gratitude for the body. The sacred is not in the act itself, but in the way you meet it. Try this practice. Choose one ordinary task today and give it your full attention. If you are eating, put away distractions and simply taste. Notice the colors, the textures, the flavors. If you are walking, feel the rhythm of your steps, the ground beneath your feet, the air against your skin. If you are washing your hands, feel the temperature of the water, the sensation of cleansing. For those moments, let the task be enough. Notice what shifts in your body and mind when you approach the act with reverence. A woman once described how this practice transformed her relationship with her children. She used to rush through bedtime, eager to finish chores after they slept. But when she began treating ordinary acts as sacred, she slowed down. She noticed the softness of their hair as she brushed it, the warmth of their small hands as she held them, the sweetness of their breathing as they drifted to sleep. These were not interruptions to life, they were life itself. She said, "I realized I was not preparing for sacred moments, I was already in them." Zen teachers often say, "When walking, walk. When eating, eat." On the surface, the instruction seems obvious, but in practice, it is radical. Most of the time, we are not where we are. Eating breakfast while checking email, walking while scrolling our phones, listening while planning what to say next. We live split between the act and distraction, and in doing so, we dilute the richness of both. Sacred practice calls us back. It says, "Do one thing fully, and in that fullness, discover life." This approach is not about perfection. There will be days you eat in haste, days you multitask, days you forget. That is human, but each time you remember, you have the opportunity to return. To pour your full presence into the moment before you is to touch the sacred. The task does not need to be glamorous. In fact, the simpler, the better. The more ordinary the act, the greater the invitation to recognize that holiness is not somewhere else. It is here. Tonight, before you sleep, take one ordinary act, maybe brushing your teeth, maybe drinking a glass of water, and do it slowly, attentively. Whisper inwardly, "This too is sacred." As you rest, notice how it feels to bring reverence into something so small. You may discover that life is not divided into sacred and mundane. Life is only divided into what you attend to and what you ignore. And when you attend fully, you find that everything is sacred. Presence in pain and discomfort. Pain is a reality of being human. From the smallest ache to the deepest grief, discomfort finds its way into our lives. Most of us spend enormous energy trying to escape it. We distract ourselves with work, numb ourselves with food or entertainment, or try to silence it with quick fixes. Yet in running from pain, we often make it louder. The paradox is this: when we turn toward discomfort with presence instead of away from it with fear, suffering softens. Pain may not disappear, but its grip loosens. Presence transforms the relationship. The Buddha taught that pain is like the first arrow it strikes, and it hurts. But suffering is the second arrow, the one we fire ourselves. Pain is the raw sensation, throbbing, heat, tension. Suffering is the story. This will never end. I can't bear this. Something is wrong with me. The first arrow may be unavoidable, but the second is optional. Presence is the practice of dropping the second arrow and meeting the first with compassion. There was a woman who lived with chronic illness for years. She spent much of her life fighting her body, wishing it were different, resenting its weakness. One day, exhausted, she tried something new. She sat quietly, closed her eyes, and simply placed her hand over the area of pain. She breathed slowly and whispered inwardly, "I am here with you." To her surprise, something shifted. The pain did not vanish, but her suffering eased. For the first time, she felt her body not as an enemy, but as a companion asking for care. Presence turned pain into dialogue instead of battle. When we meet discomfort with attention, we begin to see its impermanence. Notice how an ache is never completely still. It pulses, sharpens, dulls, moves. Observe closely, and you will discover that even pain is in flux. This does not make it pleasant, but it makes it less frightening. The mind imagines pain as a solid wall, but in presence, we realize it is more like a wave rising, falling, changing. Waves can be endured, waves pass. Try this practice. The next time you feel pain, pause, close your eyes, ask, "What is the exact sensation here?" Describe it silently. Is it hot, tight, throbbing, sharp, dull? Where does it begin and end? Does it shift as you breathe? By observing instead of resisting, you invite spaciousness. The pain may still be there, but it is no longer everything. You have discovered that there is more to you than the pain. You are the awareness holding it. A man once said that meditation taught him not how to erase his back pain, but how to carry it differently. Before, he felt crushed by it, consumed. After practicing presence, he felt that the pain was a stone he carried in his pocket instead of a boulder pressing him down. It was still with him, but it no longer defined his entire existence. He said, "I realized pain is part of my life, but it is not all of my life." That realization gave him freedom. Presence in pain is not passivity. It does not mean giving up on treatment or ignoring what needs attention. It means adding compassion to care. When you rest instead of forcing yourself, you are practicing presence. When you speak kindly to yourself in difficulty, you are practicing presence. When you allow grief to move through you instead of burying it, you are practicing presence. Presence says, "I will not abandon myself, even in discomfort." Zen teaches that discomfort itself can be a teacher. Sit with a stiff back during meditation, and you learn patience. Sit with sadness, and you learn compassion. Sit with fear, and you learn courage. Each discomfort reveals strength when faced with awareness. Without presence, pain becomes only suffering. With presence, pain becomes wisdom. Tonight, if you feel an ache in your body or heaviness in your heart, try not to run. Place your hand gently on the place that hurts. Breathe. Whisper, "This is pain, but I do not have to suffer. I am here." Perhaps the pain will remain. Perhaps it will change. Either way, you will have offered yourself the medicine of presence. You will have discovered that peace is not the absence of pain, but the willingness to stay with yourself through it. The gate of just sitting. Among the many practices offered in Buddhism, few are as deceptively simple as Shakuntala, just sitting. Unlike other meditations that use breath counting, mantras, or visualizations, Shikantaza asks nothing more than this: sit down, be still, and allow everything to be as it is. At first, it may feel too simple to matter. How could just sitting lead to healing, wisdom, or peace? And yet, in its radical simplicity lies a profound gate to freedom. We are accustomed to striving. From childhood, we are told to work harder, achieve more, fix what is broken. Even our spiritual practice often carries this same energy. We meditate to calm down. We pray to feel better. We practice mindfulness to reduce stress. All of these have value, but they share one assumption: something is missing, and we must reach for it. Just sitting challenges this belief. It whispers, nothing is missing. This moment, as it is enough. When you sit in Shakuntala, thoughts will come. Memories may surface, worries may arise. The body may ache, the mind may wander. The practice is not to chase thoughts away or to reach some perfect stillness. The practice is simply to sit, to allow what arises to arise, and to return again and again to being here. Clouds drift across the sky, but the sky itself remains vast and untouched. In the same way, thoughts and emotions drift across awareness, but awareness itself remains spacious. To just sit is to realize you are the sky, not the clouds. Consider the story of a man who struggled with relentless anxiety. Every time he tried to meditate, he grew frustrated at the chatter in his mind. He begged his teacher for a technique to make the thoughts stop. His teacher smiled gently and said, "Stop trying to stop, just sit." The man resisted at first, convinced it was useless, but slowly he allowed himself to practice. He sat, restless and uncomfortable, but he stayed. Over time he realized that thoughts rose and fell on their own. He did not need to control them. He discovered that beneath the noise was a stillness that had been there all along. The peace he had chased was already present, waiting for his surrender. This is the paradox of just sitting. When you stop striving to arrive somewhere else, you discover you are already here. When you stop searching for peace, peace reveals itself. When you stop resisting discomfort, discomfort becomes bearable. The gate opens not by effort, but by letting go. Try this practice. Set a timer for 10 minutes. Sit comfortably, hands resting in your lap. Close your eyes if you wish. Do not focus on controlling your breath. Do not try to block thoughts. Simply sit. When a thought arises, notice it and let it pass. When discomfort comes, notice it and stay. Return again and again to sitting. No goal, no judgment, no striving, just sitting. Notice what happens. Perhaps your mind will race the entire time. Perhaps you will feel bored or restless. Or perhaps, beneath it all, you will taste a stillness that surprises you. Whatever arises, it is enough. Zen masters remind us that enlightenment is not something to be gained, but something to be uncovered. The jewel has always been in your pocket. Just sitting is the practice of remembering this. It is not glamorous, it is not dramatic, but it is deeply real. It teaches us to trust the ordinary, to bow to the simplicity of being alive. As you prepare for rest tonight, try a few moments of just sitting. No agenda, no technique, no expectation. Simply be. Whisper inwardly, nothing is missing. Let that truth sink into your bones, for in the gate of just sitting, you step into the vastness of presence, where healing and wholeness have been waiting all along. With this, Chapter 3 closes. We have seen that the now is enough, that freedom lies in breaking from mental time travel, that ordinary acts shine with sacredness, that presence transforms pain, and that just sitting opens the gate to peace. Presence is not far away. It is here, in this moment, in the breath, in the body, in the simple act of being. And when you learn to enter it, life itself becomes the path. Changing the story of aging. From the moment we are born, we begin to age. Yet in many cultures, aging is seen as a slow decline, a march toward loss, invisibility, and irrelevance. Advertisements urge us to fight wrinkles, to cover gray hair, to defy time. We are told that youth is the only season worth celebrating, and that every year afterward is a step away from vitality. But what if this story is incomplete? What if aging is not a tragedy to resist, but a transformation to embrace? What if the lines on our faces and the softness of our bodies are not signs of decline, but proof of ripening? To change the story of aging is to reclaim the truth that growing older is not about losing life, but about deepening it. In Buddhist wisdom, impermanence is not seen as an enemy. It is the nature of all things, the pulse of reality itself. Flowers bloom and fade, seasons come and go, rivers flow, never the same twice. Aging is the human form of this truth. To resist it is to resist life itself. To embrace it is to discover freedom. Instead of clinging to youth, we bow to each season of life as sacred. Each brings its own gift. Youth brings energy and possibility. Middle age brings responsibility and clarity. Age brings wisdom, compassion, and depth. None is superior, all are necessary. Consider the story of a woman who dreaded her birthdays. Each year she felt panic at the number rising. She avoided mirrors, refused to say her age aloud, convinced she was losing value. 1 year after discovering Zen practice, she decided to do something different. She lit a candle, looked in the mirror, and whispered, "Thank you." She thanked her wrinkles for the laughter they recorded. She thanked her gray hair for the storms it had weathered. She thanked her body for carrying her through decades of living. In that moment, she felt pride instead of shame. Her story shifted. She was not declining, she was ripening. Science supports this shift. Studies show that people who view aging positively live longer, healthier lives. The mind story influences the body's reality. Those who see aging as loss often experience more rapid decline. Those who see aging as growth carry resilience. This is not wishful thinking. It is biology responding to belief. The body listens to the mind's story. When the story changes, so does the experience. Zen teachers remind us that impermanence is beauty itself. A cherry blossom is precious precisely because it does not last. A sunset moves us because it fades. If it were eternal, we would overlook it. In the same way, the limited nature of life makes it luminous. Aging is not the fading of light, but the deepening of color, the richness of tone. To live this truth is to honor every year as a gift, every wrinkle as a mark of having lived. Try this practice. Tonight, write 2 sentences. First, I used to believe aging meant. 2. Fill in your old story, decline, loss, invisibility. Then write, now I choose to believe aging means. Fill in your new story, ripening, depth, wisdom, freedom. Read it aloud. Notice how your body responds. Perhaps a tension eases. Perhaps a smile comes. The story is not just words, it is medicine. Each time you repeat it, you train your mind to live in a new truth. Aging is not always easy. It brings aches, limitations, losses. But it also brings perspective. It softens the ego, deepens compassion, clarifies what matters. Instead of fearing the years, we can honor them as teachers. We can see aging not as a thief, but as a guide, leading us into new ways of being. As you prepare for sleep tonight, pause before a mirror. Look gently at your reflection. Instead of searching for what is fading, whisper, I am ripening. I am becoming more myself. Let those words settle into you. The story of aging is not fixed. You can change it. And when you do, you may find that growing older is not about diminishing it, is about becoming whole. From youth's shine to wisdom's glow. When we think of youth, the word that often comes to mind is shine. Youth shines with energy, quickness, and vitality. The skin glows, the body moves easily, the future stretches wide with possibility. Shine is dazzling, but it is not the whole story. Over time, that shine softens. The quickness slows, the skin wrinkles, the body carries its history. To those who cling to the story of youth as the only time worth celebrating, this softening feels like loss. Yet in truth, something far richer emerges. What youth offers as shine, age transforms into glow. And glow, though quieter, is deeper, steadier, and more nourishing. Shine is external. It is what the world notices first. Beauty, energy, novelty. Glow comes from within. It is the light of experience, the warmth of compassion, the radiance of wisdom. While shine turns heads, glow touches hearts. Glow does not fade when the skin changes or when the hair grays. In fact, it often grows stronger with time, shining through eyes softened by love and hands shaped by care. There was once a teacher who described his own life in decades. In my 20s, he said, I wanted to be impressive. In my 40s, I wanted to be right. In my 60s, I just want to be real. As he aged, he let go of pretense. His glow came not from achievements, but from presence. His students were drawn not to the energy of youth, but to the depth of authenticity. They said that simply being in his company felt like sitting near a fire, warm, steady, safe. This is the glow that only time can create. Science affirms what wisdom traditions have long known. As people age, empathy and emotional intelligence often deepen. Quickness of body may lessen, but the heart expands. We care less about competing, more about connecting. The urgency to prove ourselves gives way to the desire to live truly. This shift creates a different kind of radiance, one that does not depend on youth's shine but on wisdom's glow. Consider the story of a woman who, in her youth, was praised constantly for her beauty. She felt valued for her shine, and she clung to it fiercely. As the years passed, she feared the loss of that attention, but over time, she discovered another light. Friends came to her not for beauty but for counsel. Strangers felt comfort in her kindness. She realized that while her shine had dimmed, her glow had grown. She said, I used to think I had to hold on to youth to matter. Now I see that I shine differently, and perhaps more brightly than I ever did. The transition from shine to glow is not always easy. It requires a shift in perception, a willingness to see value in depth rather than surface. In a culture obsessed with shine, glow can be overlooked. But when you begin to recognize it in yourself and others, you see that it holds a different kind of beauty, one that is lasting, one that is real. Try this practice. Recall someone you admire deeply, someone older who has influenced you. Reflect on what drew you to them. Was it their physical shine, or was it their glow, the way they listened, the steadiness of their presence, the kindness in their eyes? Write down what you remember. Then place your hand on your heart and whisper, May my glow deepen. Feel the truth that your worth does not fade with age, it transforms. Zen practice reminds us that impermanence is not loss but change. Shine gives way to glow, just as day gives way to evening. Sunset may not have the blazing brightness of noon, but it carries a richness that noon cannot match. The sky at dusk glows with colors impossible at any other time. In the same way, aging brings a beauty unique to its season. As you prepare to rest tonight, think of your own glow. It may be subtle, but it is there in the love you have given, the wisdom you have earned, the compassion you have grown. Whisper, I shine differently now. My glow is my gift. Let that truth settle into you. For while shine may belong to youth, glow belongs to every season that follows, and it is a light the world desperately needs. Humor, acceptance, and freedom. Aging and impermanence often carry with them heaviness, but they can also carry something lighter, humor. To laugh at ourselves, at our creaking joints, our forgetful minds, our imperfect lives, is to soften the sharp edges of change. Humor does not deny reality, it makes it bearable. When combined with acceptance, it creates a path to true freedom. Humor, acceptance, and freedom are not three separate states but threads of the same fabric, woven together to help us live with grace. There was once an elderly monk who, when asked about his aging body, smiled and said, "Every morning I discover a new sound I didn't know my body could make." His laughter was not denial but recognition. He accepted the changes with lightness. Those around him felt the ease of his spirit. They too began to see that growing older need not be tragedy. It could be comedy, gentle, compassionate comedy. His humor was a teaching. When you can laugh at impermanence, it loses its power to frighten you. Acceptance is the deeper root beneath that laughter. Acceptance means to stop fighting what cannot be changed. It does not mean resignation, but cooperation with life as it is. Wrinkles, gray hair, slowing steps, these are not failures, they are truths. To accept them is to free yourself from the exhausting war against reality. You are no longer trying to hold back the tide, you are learning to float upon it. A woman once resisted her aging with ferocity. She spent fortunes on creams, surgeries, treatments, yet nothing stopped time. The harder she fought, the more desperate she felt. One day, sitting by a lake, she noticed the trees reflected in the water. The branches were bare, the leaves gone, yet there was still beauty in their starkness. She realized she was trying to cling to summer while winter had already arrived. In that moment, something inside her softened. She began to laugh at her own resistance. She said later, "The freedom came when I stopped fighting and started laughing." Humor opened the door. Acceptance let her walk through. Freedom is what lies on the other side. When you accept impermanence and meet it with humor, you are free. Free from the endless chase of youth. Free from shame about your body. Free from the lie that only one season of life is worth living. Freedom is not the absence of change, it is the absence of resistance to change. When you are free in this way, you can live fully in each season, grateful for its gifts. Try this practice. The next time you notice a sign of aging that frustrates you, perhaps a wrinkle, an ache, a moment of forgetfulness, pause, smile, whisper, "Ah, here you are, my new teacher." Laugh gently, then breathe and say, "I accept you. Thank you for reminding me of impermanence." Notice what happens. Often the tension eases. What felt like an enemy becomes a companion. Awe and acceptance also ripple outward. When we can laugh at ourselves kindly, we become easier for others to be around. Our presence relaxes those we love. We remind them that life is not so heavy, that impermanence can be met with lightness. In this way, our personal freedom becomes collective medicine. Zen masters are often remembered not only for their wisdom, but for their laughter. Their joy was not superficial. It was rooted in deep acceptance of life's impermanence. They saw clearly the suffering of the world, but they also saw its absurdity, its playfulness, its fleeting beauty. Their laughter was not escape, but embrace. As you prepare to rest tonight, recall one moment from your day where imperfection showed itself. Maybe you forgot something, maybe your body complained, maybe life did not go as planned. Instead of sighing, smile. Whisper, "I accept you. You are part of me. You set me free." Let humor soften your heart. Let acceptance steady your mind, and let freedom rise within you. For in the dance of humor, acceptance, and freedom, you discover a way to age, not with fear, but with joy, the ripening of the human spirit. When we speak of ripening, We often think of fruit softening into sweetness, becoming rich, nourishing, and ready to be shared. In the same way, the human spirit ripens as we grow older. What begins in youth as the shine of possibility, tempered by life's joys and hardships, matures into the glow of wisdom, compassion, and authenticity. Aging is not merely the wearing down of the body, it is the ripening of the soul. This ripening is not about losing something, but about gaining a depth that youth cannot yet hold. Zen Buddhism teaches us that impermanence is not to be feared, but embraced as the very soil of growth. Just as the lotus blossoms out of mud, the human spirit ripens through challenges, mistakes, griefs, and recoveries. Each experience etches itself into us, not as scars that disfigure, but as lines of poetry written into our being. A wrinkle becomes a record of laughter. A grey hair is a marker of storms weathered. A softened heart is proof that suffering has been transformed into compassion. This is ripening, the transformation of life's rawness into nourishment for self and others. Consider a man who spent much of his youth chasing achievement. He longed for recognition, wealth, and status. Yet, in his later years, he found joy not in accumulation but in simplicity. He said, "I used to want to be impressive. Now I want to be kind." His spirit had ripened, turning outward toward generosity. His presence itself became medicine for others. People sought him not because of what he had accomplished, but because of how they felt in his company, seen, safe, uplifted. This is the glow of a ripened spirit. The ripening of the human spirit is not without its paradoxes. It often comes as the body slows, as energy wanes, as abilities diminish. And yet, precisely because of those limits, the spirit deepens. When you cannot rush, you learn patience. When you cannot do everything, you learn what matters most. When you face loss, you discover the truth of love's endurance. In this way, aging invites the spirit into its fullest expression. Youth shines, but age glows from within. Try this practice. Each night before sleep, write down one gift that age or experience has brought you. Perhaps it is patience with your children, perhaps clarity about your values, perhaps the freedom to laugh at yourself. By honoring these gifts, you remind yourself that life's meaning is not behind you, but within you, ripening still. In this recognition, the fear of aging loosens, replaced by gratitude for the richness accumulating in your soul. There is a grace that emerges with ripening, a grace that does not deny sorrow, but holds it tenderly, that does not fear imperfection, but welcomes it as part of the story. A ripened spirit no longer strives to prove worth, for it has discovered worth is intrinsic. It no longer resists impermanence, for it has learned that change is the dance of life. This grace is not given by years alone, but by conscious living, by choosing again and again to let each experience soften you rather than harden you. As you reflect tonight, place your hand on your heart and whisper, "I am ripening." Feel the truth of that. You are not decaying, you are deepening. You are not finished, you are unfolding. Every season of your life has carried you here, to this moment, to this breath, and in this moment you are more whole than you have ever been. With this, Chapter 4 closes. We have seen that aging is not a tragedy but a transformation, not a decline but a ripening. We have learned to change the story of aging, to see youth's shine give way to wisdom's glow, to discover grace in impermanence, to meet change with humor and acceptance, and to honor the ripening of the human spirit. This is the gift of time, not less life, but deeper life, not fading light, but richer glow. May we step into it with open hearts. Why the body heals for a reason. Healing is not an accident. It is not merely the mechanical process of tissues mending or cells regenerating. Healing carries meaning. The body heals for a reason, and that reason is tied to life itself. Beneath the biological intelligence of the body lies an even deeper truth. We are made not only to survive, but to live with purpose. When the body chooses to mend, when it fights infection, knits wounds, or restores balance, it is saying yes to life. The body heals because it remembers that life is worth continuing. Science reveals the astonishing wisdom of our biology. Skin closes over cuts with no instruction from the mind. Bones knit themselves together after fracture. The immune system recognizes invaders and defends us, often without our awareness. This intelligence is not random, it is purposeful. The body's healing mechanisms evolved not just to keep us alive, but to keep us engaged with living. And yet, there is more to it than science can measure. People with strong reasons to live often recover more quickly than those who feel hopeless. Meaning itself becomes medicine. Consider the story of a man who suffered a heart attack in his 60s. The doctors were uncertain whether he would recover fully, but he had a granddaughter he longed to walk down the aisle one day. That vision gave him strength. He did not merely comply with his rehabilitation, he embraced it with determination. Against all odds, he recovered enough to attend her wedding years later. He said, "I think my heart healed because it remembered love." His body had found a reason to fight for life. Buddhist wisdom affirms this truth. To live with purpose, to serve something beyond the ego, infuses life with energy. Monks who devote themselves to teaching and compassion often live long, not because they fear death, but because their lives are filled with meaning. One elderly monk was asked the secret to his health. He smiled and said, "I wake up each day with people to love and teachings to share. My body knows it still has work to do." His vitality was not just biological, it was spiritual. Try this reflection. Ask yourself, what do I live for? It may be family, creativity, service, love, or simply the beauty of the sunrise. Write it down. Let it be simple. Perhaps, I live to hold my child's hand, or I live to plant seeds in the earth, or I live to listen to the birds. Let this reason settle into your heart. The next time you feel weary or ill, return to it. Whisper to your body, "This is why I heal." Notice how your energy shifts when you align with purpose. Healing is not always about curing. Some illnesses remain, some wounds leave scars, some conditions cannot be reversed. But even then, the body continues to heal in ways that matter, easing pain, creating moments of clarity, allowing presence. Healing means moving toward wholeness, even if wholeness does not mean perfection. And the reason the body heals, again and again, is because life continues to call us toward itself. There was a woman with advanced cancer who described her journey this way: "I don't know if my body will heal the way I hope, but each day I feel it healing me toward love, toward forgiveness, toward peace." Her healing was not in the disappearance of disease, but in the ripening of her spirit. The body heals for a reason, and sometimes that reason is not survival but awakening. As you prepare for rest tonight, place your hand over your heart. Feel its steady rhythm. Whisper, "Thank you for healing. Thank you for choosing life." Know that your body has reasons beyond what the mind can comprehend. Trust that as long as breath remains, the body will keep saying yes to life. And let that yes be your reminder. The body heals not by accident, but for a reason, because your life, in this very moment, is worth living. Service as medicine. In a world that so often glorifies self-reliance and individual achievement, it can be easy to forget the healing power of service. Yet again and again, both spiritual wisdom and scientific research affirm the same truth. When we give to others, we are also giving to ourselves. Service is not just an obligation or a moral duty, it is medicine. To step out of the prison of self-concern and into the flow of compassion is to unlock a profound source of vitality and meaning. Consider the way the body responds to acts of kindness. When you help another, your brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which lowers stress and supports heart health. Endorphins surge, creating what some call the helper's high. Blood pressure lowers, immune function strengthens, mood improves. To serve is to invite the body into balance. Service does not deplete, it replenishes. There was once a man who, after retiring, found himself sinking into depression. His days felt empty, his body grew sluggish, his will to live faded. At the suggestion of a friend, he began volunteering at a food pantry. At first, he resisted, thinking he had little to give. But slowly, as he stocked shelves and carried groceries for strangers, something shifted. His body felt lighter, his mind cleared. He laughed again. He later said, "It turns out I wasn't giving food, I was receiving life." Service became his medicine. Buddhism calls this practice dana, the act of giving without expectation. It is not measured in size or grandeur. A smile, a kind word, a moment of listening, these are also service. A Zen teacher once said, "The greatest gift you can give is your presence." True service is not about fixing others, but about being with them. To listen deeply, to witness without judgment, is a profound offering. It reminds both giver and receiver that we are not alone. A woman who battled years of loneliness found unexpected healing through service. She began writing letters of encouragement to patients in hospitals. She never met them, but each note carried her care. As she wrote, her own isolation eased. She said, "Every letter reminded me I still had love to give, and in giving, I stopped feeling empty." Service had restored her sense of belonging. By becoming medicine for others, she received medicine herself. Try this practice. Today, perform one small act of service. It need not be dramatic. Hold the door open for someone, call a friend who is struggling, offer a sincere compliment. Write a thank you note. Do it not for recognition, but as medicine for yourself as much as for them. Afterward, pause and notice. How does your body feel? How does your heart feel? The act itself may take moments, but its ripples can last far longer. Service is also a way of shifting perspective. When we are trapped in our own suffering, turning toward another reminds us that we are part of something larger. Our pain does not vanish, but it becomes lighter when shared. Compassion is circulation for the spirit. keeping energy flowing where stagnation once bred despair. Just as the body requires movement to stay healthy, the spirit requires service. Zen masters remind us that to serve is to live in harmony with interbeing, the truth that all life is connected. The food we eat, the breath we take, the water we drink, all come from the service of others, human and non-human alike. To serve is to step consciously into this web of giving and receiving, to honor it by participating fully. Service is not sacrifice, it is participation in the dance of life. As you prepare for sleep tonight, reflect on one act of service you offered or received today. Whisper inwardly, "Service is my medicine." Let gratitude fill your chest. Know that tomorrow will bring new opportunities to give, and in each act of giving, you are also receiving. For service, at its heart, is not a transaction, but a transformation. It heals the one who gives as much as the one who receives, transforming wounds into gifts. Every scar tells a story. Some are etched on the skin, visible to the eye. Others lie deep within, invisible but no less real, the wounds of betrayal, loss, failure, illness. Our instinct is to hide them, to wish them away, to pretend they never happened. Yet Buddhist wisdom invites us to see differently. Our wounds are not signs of weakness, but seeds of wisdom. What once hurt us can become what heals others. Pain, when transformed, becomes gift. The Japanese art of kintsugi repairs broken pottery with gold, highlighting cracks instead of concealing them. The object is not restored to its original form, it becomes more beautiful because of its fractures. In the same way, our wounds can be filled with the gold of compassion, resilience, and insight. The breaks do not disappear, but they shine. To transform wounds into gifts is to practice spiritual kintsugi, turning what once broke us into what makes us whole. Consider the story of a man who struggled with addiction for decades. His life unraveled, his family lost trust, his body nearly failed. After years of recovery, he chose to help others battling the same demons. His wound became his qualification. Those he served trusted him, not because he was perfect, but because he knew their pain. He often said, "My past is not my shame, it's my gift. It's how I can sit with others in their darkest moments." His scars became the very bridge that allowed healing to flow. Or think of a woman who lost her child. For years, she lived with unbearable grief. She could not imagine ever healing. But in time, she began supporting other grieving parents. She founded a group where stories were shared, tears were honored, and no one felt alone. Her wound never disappeared, it still ached. Yet it became the well from which she drew compassion. She once said, "I would never have chosen this wound, but since it is mine, I will let it be a gift." Her pain became medicine, not only for herself but for countless others. Buddhism teaches that suffering, when met with awareness, can become a path to awakening. Anger, when transformed, becomes clarity. Fear becomes wisdom about what matters most. Grief becomes compassion. Even shame, when faced with honesty, can become humility. Our wounds, rather than closing us off, can open us to deeper connection with others. We begin to say, "I know this pain. You are not alone." This is how wounds transform into gifts. Try this practice. Take a piece of paper and write down one wound you carry. Beneath it, write what it has taught you. Perhaps patience, perhaps strength, perhaps empathy. Then ask, how might I use this gift to serve others? You do not need to start a foundation or write a book. Even a simple conversation, an act of kindness, can carry the medicine of your experience. The gift is not in erasing the wound, but in using its lesson. Zen reminds us that perfection is not the goal. Wholeness is. Wholeness includes cracks, scars, and broken places. To pretend otherwise is to deny the truth of being human. The Buddha himself did not promise a life free of pain. He promised a way to transform it. Our suffering, when carried with awareness, becomes the soil from which compassion blooms. As you reflect tonight, place your hand on one of your scars, physical or emotional. Whisper, "Thank you for what you have taught me. May I use this for good." Feel the shift as you honor your wound, not as an enemy but as a teacher. In that shift lies freedom. For when wounds are transformed into gifts, they no longer define us by what we have lost. They define us by what we can give. The world does not need perfect people. It needs people who have suffered and grown, who carry scars that shine with gold. Your wounds, when met with presence and love, can become your greatest offering. Let them. For in giving from what once hurt you, you will discover that nothing was wasted, and everything can be redeemed. Small acts, big meaning. We often believe that healing and transformation require grand gestures, dramatic breakthroughs, or monumental changes. But life is not usually transformed in a single sweeping moment. More often, it is shaped by countless small acts, subtle kindnesses, quiet choices, simple gestures of presence. Small acts may seem insignificant, yet they carry immense meaning. They ripple outward in ways we cannot measure, becoming medicine not only for others, but for ourselves. Consider the power of a smile. To the giver, it is a small effort, a momentary lift of the lips. To the receiver, it may be the difference between despair and hope. A kind word, a door held open, a note of encouragement. These acts take seconds, but their effects can last for years. People often remember not the grand events, but the small gestures that made them feel seen, valued, loved. In Zen, this is the essence of mindful living, to pour full presence into whatever we do, no matter how small, trusting that nothing is wasted. There was a man who made it his practice to greet everyone he passed on his morning walk. At first, people barely noticed, but over time, his greetings became a part of the community's rhythm. One woman later said that his simple "good morning" had kept her going through a season of loneliness. He never knew how much his small act mattered, but it did. He had become a healer without even realizing it. Another story tells of a woman who, while struggling with her own grief, began writing one thank you note each week, sometimes to a friend, sometimes to a stranger, sometimes to someone from her past. Each note took minutes to write, but it shifted her perspective. Gratitude lightened her sorrow, and her words brought unexpected joy to those who received them. She discovered that healing was not only in being cared for, but in offering care, even in small ways. Zen teachers often remind us that enlightenment is found not in grand experiences, but in daily acts. When walking, walk. When eating, eat. To this we might add, when smiling, smile. When helping, help. When we do small things with great presence, they become sacred. Washing a dish attentively, listening to someone fully, offering a hand when it is needed, these are not trivial. They are the fabric of a meaningful life. Try this practice. Choose one small act of kindness today and offer it deliberately. It may be sending a message to someone you love, leaving a note of encouragement for a coworker, offering your seat to a stranger, or even pausing to breathe before speaking. Afterward, reflect on how it felt. Did your body soften? Did your mood shift? Did you sense connection? Notice how even a small act changes the atmosphere within and around you. The beauty of small acts is that they accumulate. One kind gesture may not change the world, but countless gestures shape the climate of a community, a family, a relationship. A gentle word may ripple through generations. The smallest seed can grow into a forest. Each act is a thread, and together they weave the fabric of compassion in which we all can live. A monk once said, "If you want to know the state of your heart, look at the small things you do each day. The way you treat a stranger, the way you speak when tired, the way you respond to inconvenience. These reveal your practice more than any grand declaration. Small acts are mirrors. They show us who we are becoming." As you prepare to sleep tonight, reflect on one small act you gave or received today. Let gratitude rise for its meaning. Whisper, "Small acts carry big meaning." Trust that nothing offered with sincerity is ever wasted. In time, you will see that the medicine of life is not hidden in rare moments of grandeur, but in the ordinary gestures of love that ripple outward endlessly. Living as walking medicine. What if the greatest medicine you could offer the world was not something you did, but who you became? What if healing was not only a practice, but a presence, something that emanates naturally from a life lived with awareness, compassion, and authenticity? To live as walking medicine is to embody the truth that peace, kindness, and wisdom can radiate outward simply through the way we move through the world. It is to understand that your being, not just your doing, can be a source of healing for others. Buddhist wisdom often speaks of the bodhisattva, one who lives not for themselves alone, but for the benefit of all beings. This does not require sainthood or perfection. It requires sincerity. When you live with openness, when you respond with patience, when you forgive, when you listen, you become a refuge for others. You become medicine. Your smile can ease loneliness. Your calm can soothe anxiety. Your kindness can restore faith. You may never know the full effect of your presence, but it ripples outward in ways unseen. Consider the story of an elderly teacher who never gave grand sermons, never wrote books, never sought recognition. He simply lived each day with attentiveness and compassion. He greeted his neighbors warmly, listened without judgment, tended his garden with reverence. Those around him said that being in his presence felt like sitting in sunlight. They could breathe more easily. They felt safe. He had become walking medicine, not through grand gestures, but through a life of small, consistent kindness. This truth is reflected in science as well. Studies show that emotions are contagious. Calm spreads calm. Compassion reduces stress, not only in the giver, but in those who receive. A single act of kindness can lower blood pressure, boost immune function, and inspire others to act kindly in turn. Healing is not confined to hospitals or therapy rooms. It happens in kitchens, in streets, in the quiet presence of someone who chooses to live with love. Living as walking medicine begins with how you treat yourself. When you offer your body rest instead of criticism, when you speak kindly to yourself instead of harshly, When you honor your needs instead of ignoring them, you create an inner climate of healing. That climate radiates outward. People around you can feel it, even if they cannot name it. Self-compassion becomes community medicine. Try this reflection. Today, ask yourself, what medicine am I offering the world through my presence? Is it hurriedness, irritation, distraction, or is it calm, kindness, patience? Do not judge yourself, simply notice. Then ask, what medicine would I like to offer? Perhaps the answer is gentleness, perhaps it is courage, perhaps it is joy. Set the intention to embody that quality. You may be surprised at how even one shift in presence changes the space around you. A woman once shared that after years of chasing achievement, she realized her greatest gift was not her accomplishments, but her presence. She said, "I thought people loved me for what I did, but I see now they needed me for how I was with them, listening, steady, kind. That was my medicine all along." This realization freed her from endless striving. She chose instead to live as walking medicine, trusting that her presence was enough. As chapter 5 closes, let this truth settle in you. You are already medicine. Each breath you take with awareness, each word you speak with kindness, each step you walk with compassion, you are healing the world in ways beyond measure. Healing is not a distant goal, it is a way of being. You do not need to wait for the perfect moment or the perfect self. You can begin now, in this breath, in this step. Tonight, as you prepare to rest, place your hand over your heart. Whisper, "I am medicine, I am enough." Let those words echo in you. Sleep, knowing that your very existence can be a balm to others, that by living with presence and love, you are already serving. And when you wake tomorrow, step into the world not as someone waiting to heal, but as someone already healing, walking medicine for a world in need. With this, chapter 5 closes, and so does our journey. We have seen that the body heals for a reason, that service itself is medicine, that wounds can become gifts, that small acts carry immense meaning, and that our very presence can be medicine. Healing is not something outside you, it is within, ready to be lived. And when you live it, you become the medicine the world has been waiting for. As our journey through these teachings comes to a close, pause once more. Place your hand on your heart. Feel its steady rhythm. Feel the breath that continues, moment by moment, carrying you forward. Remember, healing is not a destination, it is a way of walking. It is presence, compassion, and meaning woven into the fabric of daily life. You have explored the body as messenger, the emotions as teachers, the present as enough, aging as ripening, and service as medicine. You have seen that wounds can become gifts, that small acts carry immense meaning, and that your very presence can be medicine for the world. You are not broken, you are becoming. You are not empty, you are overflowing. You are not just surviving, you are serving, simply by being. Carry these teachings gently. Do not treat them as rules, but as invitations. Bow to each moment as sacred. Let your life itself become a sutra, written not in words, but in kindness, patience, and presence. Trust that your being has power to heal, to love, to uplift. The world needs your medicine. Thank you, dear friend, for walking this path with me. Thank you for your openness, your attention, your willingness to sit with these truths. Your presence here gives them life. May you be well. May you be at peace. May you remember your wholeness. And may your healing ripple outward, touching every life you meet. The journey does not end here. It begins anew with each breath. Whisper softly, "Now is enough. I am medicine. I am whole." Then step forward into the rest of your life, into the endless unfolding of this beautiful path. To you, dear reader, thank you. Your willingness to sit with these words, to reflect, and to open your heart has given this work its meaning. Without you, these teachings would remain only ink on a page. With you, they become alive, breathing, and real. Thank you for your trust, your presence, and your courage to walk the path of healing. I bow in gratitude to the countless teachers, seen and unseen, who have carried these timeless truths through generations. Their wisdom is the soil from which this book has grown. I also honor the companions, friends, and communities who remind us daily that healing is not an individual endeavor, but a shared journey. Finally, a heartfelt thanks to the viewers and followers of our channel. Your comments, reflections, and encouragement continue to inspire this work. Each time you share your story or your insight, you contribute to a circle of healing much larger than yourself. If these words have touched you, I warmly invite you to subscribe to our channel so you can join us for the next video, where we will continue to explore the medicine of Zen and Buddhist wisdom together. Your presence in this community is a gift, and by subscribing, you help the teachings reach others who may be waiting for them. Subscribe here, Buddhism Verity. With deep gratitude and joy, I thank you for walking with me to this point. May our paths continue to cross in the light of wisdom and compassion.